Good morning and happy slightly belated Earth Day. Welcome to Westside Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Linda Phippen and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. As a member of the worship committee, I will be assisting with today's service. We are happy you have joined us this morning, whether you're here in person at Westside, whether you're streaming on YouTube or watching at some later time. Whoever you are, whatever your beliefs or spiritual practices or how you identify yourselves, you are welcome here. Before we get started with the service, I do want to point out that you can find announcements printed in the order of service if you're here in person. If you're tuning in on YouTube, the announcements have been scrolling on your screen. Does anybody else have an announcement that isn't listed anywhere? Okay. So this morning for our gathering music, the Westside Choir is going to come up and lead the congregation in our gathering song, Blue Boat Home, which is number 1064 in the Teal hymnal. Yetta Jager and I are going to be accompanying this morning. So I do want to point out, if any of you are musicians or singers or readers of music, we're doing a slightly different, more simplified arrangement than what's in the hymnal. So just follow along with us with the choir and everything will be fine.
So you can rise and body your spirit. It's number 1064, and I will wave my arms a little bit to let people know when to start once Yetta and Linda start playing. All right.
Don't stand right in front of them. Move left or right.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my driving heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harm a port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun
job. So, good morning, everyone. Good to see you all. I am Reverend Carol Bodeau. I am privileged to serve here as minister. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Just a little note on how we're doing things. You'll notice we had so many requests to keep the configuration of the sanctuary in this format that we decided to just stick with it for a while and do the experiment, because so many people said, we really like it this way, we want to keep it this way. So that's what we're going to do. So you will see us doing a little bit of like, where should we put that? Where did that, where does the thing go? And how do we get to the bowl? And right. So you're going to see a little bit of that as we attempt to learn the best way to do this. We've decided between the choir and some of the worship team that it's nice to have the chalice be the thing that is elevated before us, and all of us humans down here equal. I was saying that it's kind of nice not to have it be about me and the worship associate being up there and you all having to look up to us, but the chalice, which is the symbol of our values, being the thing that is elevated in this building. So that's how we're going to do it today. So we're going to invite the bowl to sound. But before we do that, I have a special kind of gathering that I'd like to share with us. So today we're celebrating Earth Day. And one of the things that is becoming more and more actually traditional in UU congregations is to acknowledge the people who cared for this land before we came here. So before I invite the bowl to sing this morning, what I'd like to do is do what is called a land acknowledgement. This is becoming a standard part of certainly many, if not most, UU congregations' opening of their services. It's a way that we acknowledge the indigenous people, the First Nations people who cared for this land, and also those people in our community who cared for this land before we were here. We also will acknowledge the waterways of which we are a part. So we are gathered today on land that was sacred to the Salagwetui, the Eastern Cherokee, to the Shawandase Tula, or the Shawnee tribe, and the Satsoyahu Yuchi people. Westside lies within the Fort Loudoun Lake section of the Upper Tennessee River watershed and is on the edge of the Lower Clinch River Basin. We give thanks for the care that people for many centuries have taken of this land. We also give thanks for the care that people in this congregation, particularly Jonas, I want to just call out Jonas and Judy Holdeman specifically, and Jerry and Alice Thornton and Dave Goforth and some of the other people. I'm going to say a lot of names later in the service. The people who have cared for the physical earth that we get to enjoy, the farming family who cared for this land before it was purchased by Westside, and the people who now care for the actual grounds. Let's just take a minute as the bowl sings to notice what a privileged people we are. Think about the privilege it is to have 5 acres of land that we get to be the stewards of, well, just shy of 5 acres, for those of you who know the history of the building. But we get to be the stewards of an incredible piece of the earth. What a gift. So as the bowl sings, I invite you to just reflect on the pieces of the earth here and other places in your life that you are privileged and charged with being the stewards of.
So Reverend Carol's going to light our chalice this morning. On Earth Day, we often tend to think of big picture things like climate change, saving wild places like the Amazon or the Arctic, and maybe the greenhouse production and other kinds of pollution caused by industrial agriculture. We don't so often think of the importance and benefits of small-scale agriculture as an integrated part of communities, which is being lost worldwide. One person that does think about this is the author and poet Wendell Berry, who may be familiar to many of you. One of his poems in particular encapsulates his vision and dreams for a time when such communities might thrive. It is called The Wisdom to Survive. If we will have the wisdom to survive, to stand like slow-growing trees on a ruined place, renewing it, enriching it, we will make our seasons welcome here, asking not too much of earth or heaven. Then, a long time after we are dead, our lives prepare will live here, their houses strongly placed upon the valley sides, fields and gardens rich in the windows. The river will run clear, as we will never know it, and over it, a canopy of birdsong. On the levels of the hills will be green meadows, stock bells in noonshade. On the steeps, where greed and ignorance cut down the old forest, an old forest will stand, its rich leaf fall drifting on its roots. The veins of forgotten springs will have opened. Families will be singing in the fields. In their voices, they will hear a music risen out of the ground. They will take nothing from the ground they will not return, whatever the grief at parting. Memory native to this valley will spread over it like a grove, and memory will grow into legend, legend into song, song into sacrament. The abundance of this place, the songs of its people and its birds, will be health and wisdom and indwelling light. This is no paradisal dream. Its hardship is its possibility.
We are going to light a couple of special candles today, so I'm going to ask Linda to light our community candles. One of the things that we do here at Westside is we are a welcoming congregation. We have a formal status as a congregation that formally welcomes LGBTQ plus people, and we actively continue to keep that an active status. So there are certain points during the year when we acknowledge events and what are often called days of observance to recognize LGBTQ people in our communities. This week we are lighting a candle on the 26th. Lesbian Visibility Day is being celebrated. So we're simply lighting a candle to acknowledge that we affirm that recognition of people who identify as lesbian in our communities, and that we stand in solidarity with LGBTQ people. If you are curious about learning more about what the welcoming team does, we'll be doing a service in a few weeks. And it's actually, we're broadening the work we do from just LGBTQ justice to other kinds of justice. We'll be telling you more about that in a few weeks. We would love to have a few more people join us on that team. So if that's something you're interested in, you can talk to me. And in a couple of weeks, like I said, we'll be having a service on that topic. And so you'll have the opportunity, I think it's June, Ellen, help me out here, June. It's in June, so it's a few weeks away, yeah, in June. But before that, you're welcome to talk to me. And at that time, we'll be explaining all the new things we're going to be doing. Thanks, Linda.
We will now receive an offering for the support of Westside. Oh. The choir is going to accompany us, but we will be receiving an offering for its people, its community, the building, and our work in the wider world. Each quarter, we donate a quarter of funds collected to a Share the Plate partner For this quarter, our partner is Worthy Now, which supports, among other things, a pen pal program for incarcerated Unitarian Universalists. This is done through the Church of the Larger Fellowship. Your generosity is much appreciated.
We will get the logistics figured out. It's going to take a minute. It's going to take a minute. So it's awesome that we're here to celebrate Earth Day, and it's awesome that we have these beautiful grounds, and it's also awesome that we have a beautiful day to do it in. I know that a lot of us have been outdoors, spending time in our gardens. I hope that you all go home and cover up your vulnerable plants. We do have a frost warning for tonight. I know what my fiance Tracy's doing all day today, and what I'll be doing the second I get home. So frost tonight and possibly tomorrow night, folks. So Earth Day was a holiday that was created in 1970 by a senator from Wisconsin. His name was Gaylord Nelson. And it was during a time when there was a pretty serious pollution environmental crisis. There was a gas thing going on where there was a lot of lead-based fuel, diesel fuel that was being used. There was a lot of pollution. And so this Senator Gaylord Nelson, he was sort of inspired by some of the anti-war movement and the protests. And this was also close on the heels of Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring. So he decided that we needed some kind of a big movement to draw attention to the environment. And so he got a bunch of people and he organized. And that first Earth Day, now this is something I didn't know. Do we know why Earth Day is on April 22nd? This is surprising. It's between finals and spring break. And he wanted to mobilize college students. And he thought, can't do it during spring break, can't do it too close to finals. Halfway between that, April 22nd was what was chosen. Had no clue that was why that happened. But it was really effective. The initial Earth Day, the statistics say that 10% of the U.S. population, 10% of the population of the U.S., that first Earth Day in 1970 participated in teach-ins and marches and cleanups and all sorts of things. And within a year of that event, the Environmental Protection Agency was formed. In 1990, Earth Day went global, and so this is 20 years in 1990, 200 million people in 141 countries were involved in Earth Day by 1990. Now, it's a little bit shocking for me to realize that this stuff happened all during my lifetime. I don't feel that old, actually. It hasn't been that long, right? But all of that started after I was already here. I sort of take Earth Day and the EPA for granted, like they've always been around, but they're really relatively new. Of course, UUs have been kind of in the middle of all those environmental movements for a long time. But interestingly enough, our original Unitarian Universalist principles, which were actually adopted in the 1960s, those came primarily from the Universalist Association of America, from their principles. They do not have any environmental statements in them at all. The original principles say nothing about care of the earth at all. The 7 principles that we're familiar with now were created in 1984. So they're really new. And this 7th principle, which is that we covenant to affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. Okay? That's the 7th principle. That's relatively new in our movement. And today, the central organizing agency that sort of leads denominational efforts on that particular principle is called the UUMFE. Anybody know what that stands for? Okay, it's the UU Ministry for Earth. Okay. So originally, the group was formed in 1990 at the time that Earthy kind of went global. UUMFE was not called that at the beginning. It was called the 7th Principle Project, based on our 7th principle. It was a separate organization. It was not part of the UUA. The 7th Principle Project, their first big action in 1991 was to create a program, a handbook for congregations called the Green Sanctuary Handbook. Okay? So, the Green Sanctuary Handbook originally included things like religious celebrations, religious education curricula, church administration suggestions, and community action kinds of ideas for congregations to become more environmentally conscious and active. Now, some of you have heard us, the choir, over many years performing music, and some of you have done in other contexts, music by Jim Scott, who's a well-known musician. Jim Scott was sort of the original troubadour of the 7th Principle Project. He did a lot of music for the environmental movement in Unitarian Universalism. And what happened was it started to spread. People started to try out doing green sanctuary activities in their congregations. And in 1999, the Green Sanctuary Handbook was actually revised to become more of like a guidebook for an accreditation process. The 1999 handbook is like it's like a way to assess your congregation, your building, the way you do things for your environmental impacts, and then make commitments to improve your environmental footprint. So in 2002, this was spreading. You know, as these years passed, this was spreading, and more congregations were saying, well, we want to get involved. Westside had an early green sanctuary program, and congregations were getting more and more active. So in 2002, the organization that at that time was called the 7th Principle Project actually incorporated and became, at the time, we had what were called affiliate organizations. Unitarian Universalism, a few years later, eliminated the affiliate status for organized groups, but at that time, they were an officially affiliated organization of the UUA. So they were sort of like, next door, we recognize you, we think you're important, all right? Then the accreditation process started to spread. More and more congregations were going through the Green Sanctuary accreditation process. Now, this is like our welcoming congregation process. So for those of you who might have been here, the welcoming congregation process involves education, it involves doing certain things and committing to certain actions, and then you get like an official letter, an official stamp, an official sign that says you are a welcoming congregation. This is also true of Green Sanctuary congregations. You go through a process, you go through assessments, you make commitments, and you make changes in the way you do things, and then you get an official status as a Green Sanctuary. I will tell you that people who are looking at our congregations, looking to join congregations or find congregations, often will look to see if a congregation has Green Sanctuary status. Okay? So this is something that Westside has talked about before, and it isn't about environmentalism in your personal life. It's not about what you do at home, although you can certainly take away information from it about what to do at home. It's not about what you do at home. The Green Sanctuary program is about congregations looking at our collective actions, because we know that collective actions are what we need right now to make a difference. So now I will tell you that sometimes people say, ooh, Green Sanctuary, that's hard. They will have to put solar panels on the roof. We can't afford solar panels. That's not happening. We can't put out the solar panels yet. It doesn't have to involve that much. We can ask simple, very small questions like, where do we buy our toilet paper? What kind of packaging does our stuff come in that we use for potlucks? How much saran wrap do we buy? What kinds of trash bags do we use in the kitchen? We think that those are not very important questions, but they in fact are. So in 2005, the Seventh Principle Project had grown big enough. I was actually at this meeting when they voted to change their name to UU Ministry for Earth. And this is important considering that we're looking at changing the very condition of our principles now. This year at General Assembly, there will be a vote to change the way we frame those, and we won't have the same like numbering system for the principles probably in the future. So UU Ministry for Earth has become more and more of a structured organization, and it's been instrumental in the denomination doing all sorts of environmental organizing for 30 years now. In 2008, they became an official partner of the UUA to administer the Green Sanctuary Program, and now they're actually a part of the UUA, an office of the UUA. So I want to do a few little shout outs here, all right? Just as we do the land acknowledgement, which we're going to try to consistently do more often, because we want to honor that this earth has been cared for a very long time by people from whom the land was taken, not by their choice. And we also want to honor all the people who have cared for it since that happened. So I'm going to shout out a few names of people because we're going to honor some ancestors and people who are with us today. So Jerry and Alice, I just saw Jerry. Alice is in the back. Jerry's always out taking care of things out there, right? Who are our most vocal and active native plant protectors. Sherry Hinton, who many of you might know, but a lot of you aren't going to know Sherry, did a lot of work in creating the original landscaping. Jonas Holdeman and Judy Holdeman and Dave Goforth and Elizabeth Corbett and other people, Judy Winchester, Yetta Jager, a bunch of people, I'm going to forget some and you're going to get to shout their names in a minute, people who have actually taken care of these 5 acres. So who am I forgetting? Who have I forgotten who's like actually, oh, Lori, where's Lori? Lori, yeah, and the folks who worked on the flowers out in front just most recently, right? So people have consistently done a lot of work to take care of our grounds. A couple of years ago during the pandemic, we started having services outdoors during the warmer months of the year, and a lot of people expressed how much they loved being out there on our grounds, how much they loved being able to be outside and enjoy the smell of the flowers and the trees and the sound of the birds, right, the sunlight. That, at that time, people started saying, well, we should do green sanctuary again. What happened with that? What about a green sanctuary movement? And we've made a little bit of an attempt to call that back up, but I'm now going to say, let's try again. This is me saying, what do you all think about being a greener congregation? I just printed out the latest version of the Green Sanctuary Handbook. There's a new program. It's called Green Sanctuary 2030. And the goal of the UU Ministry for Earth now is to get as many congregations as possible involved in corporate action to green up our UU ways of doing things. So what they're trying to do is to get us to understand that this is collective action. It's not just about what we do in our one small things, but it's collective. And there's another really important part of this. This is the part that's going to be maybe new information to a lot of you who've heard some of this before. UU Ministry for Earth has a new mission, vision, and values statement. And these now include an understanding of other sorts of oppression that are inextricably connected to environmental action and justice. And this is what's new. Because just as our principles are being reframed to understand accountability and these linked oppressions of different sorts, UU Ministry for Earth is now consciously and intentionally linking its work to those kinds of racial equity, economic equity, and other justice movements. So I'm going to read the mission, vision, and values of the UU Ministry for Earth. The mission: to be a seedbed for spiritual grounding and education that inspires deep practices of earth care, justice, and flourishing for all. The vision: a world in which reverence, gratitude, and care for each other and for the living earth are central to the lives of all people. Now remember when I was talking about the transformative potentials, the miraculous and massive transformative potentials that organizations can embrace. We were talking about that a couple weeks ago when we were talking about exponential institutions. This vision is an exponential vision. A world in which reverence, gratitude, and care for each other and for the living earth are central to the lives of all people. That is a pretty massive intention that they're setting. The values, and this is really important for us to understand. We are grounded in faith and spirituality, number one, which means we affirm and promote the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism, as well as the proposed 8th principle, which is a racial equity principle. And we understand climate justice to be a moral imperative. That's value number 1. Value number 2, we are grounded in environmental justice, which means we affirm and promote the framework of race and class-informed environmental justice, and strive to center the leadership and needs of frontline communities. And 3, we are grounded in partnership and collective action. We know that individual consumption choices are not enough. It is only through partnership and collective action that we can save our biosphere. So I'd like you to just sit with that for a second. Do you see how this is a different way to think about environmentalism? We're used to thinking about individual consumption. We're used to thinking about like what I do with my use of stuff. But we are not as well conditioned or trained to think about it as racial and class justice, and yet we know that that is the case. So there are a couple of points that we really want to understand here. First, the first one that I want us to hold on to is that collective, which means congregational environmental action, isn't optional. It's a moral imperative. That's important. That is important. If we want to live our proclaimed values, caring for the earth has to be a core, not just of what we say, but what we actually do as a collective body. We actually have to think about it when we make our choices as a community, for the things we do as a community. Second, we've got to understand that this kind of action and care is in the context of broader justice issues, and that means we have to connect ourselves to larger communities in order to be ethical and effective. That's harder than just doing little small things. It's harder. So we've been talking about this a lot. What does it mean to be connected in partnerships with the larger community? How does the Green Sanctuary program affect us? Is it even possible? Like, is that even possible? So let me reassure you first that if we were to decide, okay, we're going to do some of this Green Sanctuary work, it doesn't mean we have to spend tons of money or put up the solar panels right away. Maybe someday. It doesn't mean we have to fulfill all the requirements for accreditation right away. It just means we could ask those questions. What could we do better to be better stewards of the earth, of these 5 acres, of this building? And what could we do to be in better partnership with local agencies and local groups in the community, particularly those that are frontline communities? What could we do to be better partners with those people in our larger community? We could, for example, as a simple starter, affiliate ourselves with UU Ministry for Earth. Individuals can be members of UUMFE, but congregations can also set up congregational networking accounts. There's a whole new system that they've created where congregations can sign up as a congregation and have a small team of people who are staying in touch with UUMFE. This allows for us to be informed about environmental issues and actions, collective movements. So, for example, how many of you remember the Standing Rock protests that happened a few years back, right? The pipeline protests. UU Ministry for Earth was the central organizing body in the UU world that did the work of organizing UUs getting to that event. And as a follow-up to that, the indigenous elders and leaders that were part of that movement, the UU Ministry for Earth maintained a relationship with the indigenous elders and teachers, and they did workshops and created other kinds of events for us to spend time. One day I did like a 4-hour-long workshop with some of those elders who were teaching about their perspectives. So that is something we could do. We could be part of UUMFE and be more engaged in the things they're promoting. I know that we as individuals care about and are concerned about the earth and the environmental crises we're facing. And I know that the people in this room want to make a difference. And I also know that one of the most common feelings we have is overwhelm, hopelessness, it's too big, it's too late. There's a certain amount of, I've been buying plastic for however many years, I'm just going to keep buying the plastic. I, this week, have just said that is the last plastic bottle of laundry detergent I'm going to buy. Last one. I have purchased my last plastic laundry detergent bottle. Because the recycling isn't actually getting recycled. I don't know if you all know that, but when you take your recycling to get recycled, chances are pretty small that it's actually going to get recycled. Mostly it ends up in the ocean. So recycling isn't actually really a good option. It isn't really happening. So we can get a little overwhelmed and a little hopeless. So the question is, does that mean we should give up? Doesn't it make sense that if everyone gives up or decides it's not possible, then it absolutely won't be possible? If we just give in to that feeling of, well, it's I'm just one person. If we all do that, then it really isn't possible. When I was born, the EPA did not exist. That's not that long ago. Now, one very visible impact of this in my own personal life that I've seen is smog levels in Los Angeles, which are still too high. But when I first visited LA in the 1980s, the early 80s, the smog was indescribable. And it has since then been reduced dramatically by efforts from the EPA, which didn't exist when I was born. And of course, there are things that have gotten worse. We are indeed in an unprecedented crisis, but we get to choose, we get to decide whether and how much we're on the side of positive rather than negative change. And I think that the UU Ministry for Earth is right. It's not an individual problem. It's a collective one and requires collective action. So, I would like for us to consider the possibility of taking collective action on this issue. I'm going to have a sign-up sheet during coffee hour in the back if you are interested in thinking about working towards a greener sanctuary. Thinking about signing us up to connect with the UU Ministry for Earth. If you are visiting with us, if you are with us online, you can email me if you're interested in that, revcarol@westsideuuc.org. We don't have to solve the whole problem, but if we don't decide collectively that it's worth starting, we won't make any progress, right? So maybe we'll talk about where we buy our toilet paper and paper towel. I just want to make my personal this is your public service announcement. If you do not know about Who Gives a Crap, Google it today. Okay? Google Who Gives a Crap today. It is a company that sells sustainably sourced bamboo or recycled toilet paper and paper towel and tissues that have no plastic in the packaging, and they come in a cardboard box with paper wrapping, and they're awesome. It's an easy step. Maybe we'll talk about those kinds of things. Maybe we'll plant some more pollinator-friendly flowers. Maybe we'll make a conscious effort. This would be one of my personal passions, is to go green on our potlucks, which we're bringing back. If we could really think about how we do potlucks, we do a lot of waste at our potlucks, right? We could think about how we might connect with other congregations or other agencies. We don't have to solve the whole problem ourselves, but it can make us feel like we are actually empowered to do something if we do it together. So what we're going to do next is we are going to sing a song, Keepers of the Earth. And it's about generations and generations of people understanding that we are the stewards of the earth. It's our job. We are the ones who have to take care of the earth. For our children and our children's children, we are called as keepers of the earth. Like the native peoples who tended this area for generations, the farmers who tended this area, and our own members, past and present, who tend this piece of earth, we have a responsibility to live our values. And so this weekend, where we celebrate Earth Day, let's see if we can't together collectively make just a little bit more of a commitment to be keepers of the earth. So I'm going to invite you, we've handed out, Bridget, thank you very much. Bridget has handed out a little piece of paper that has the words to Keepers of the Earth. Does anybody not have one? If you don't have one, raise your hand. So what we're going to do is we are going to sing this through 4 times. We're going to sing it with, we are blessed by every river. Then we're doing mountain, have I got that right? And then forest, and then creature. Okay? So we're going to sing it through 4 times. So I'm going to invite you to rise in body and spirit, or spirit, and join with us in singing.
Mountain.
And we are called as keepers of the earth.
creature.
Blessed by every creature. Every creature makes us whole with its richness and its beauty. Every creature makes us whole, and we are called as keepers of the earth. We are called to speak its sacred word for our children and our children's children. We are called as keepers of the earth.
You can be seated because we are going to do some joys and concerns today. Morgan is going to be our helper with our joys and concerns for those who are in our virtual community. And Linda, would you like to be the lighter? Or you can be the microphone person.
I was going to.
Awesome, perfect. Okay, so Linda, see, we're figuring out our logistics here. So Linda is going to come around and hold the microphone for people. This is the time when we act like our corporate collective being is meant to serve all of us. So this is the time when we share any joys or concerns that are happening in our lives. If you would like to share something that is happening in your life, you can come forward and just say your name and just the very short, this is my joy, this is my concern. And this is a time to talk about our personal lives, not so much the collective, what's going on in the world, as our personal, our families, our homes, and our personal lives. So if you have a joy, a personal joy or concern that you would like to share, I'll invite you to come forward and we will light a candle for you.
If you prefer to say be seated, I'll bring you the microphone.
I have a student, a very beautiful young woman, not long ago diagnosed with a brain tumor that was said to be inoperable. Since that time, she has successfully delivered the baby she was pregnant with when this tumor was discovered. They're going to try in May to remove as much of the tumor as they can remove, even though they won't be able to remove all of it, and then follow with other treatment. And so if you pray, or however you pray for this wonderful young woman.
I am Judy Winchester. I want to share my joy with all of you of our water feature outside, which we have because of Dwayne Krager's contribution to honor his wife, Linda Krager.
I'm Jerry Thornton. The joy I have is that lots of baby trees come up in my yard and garden. My concern is I have lots of baby trees that come up in my yard and garden. Some of them I have to dispatch because of where they are, but right now I have about 20 baby trees in pots looking for a home. So if you have need of an oak or a tulip tree, I probably have one that you can have. I'd be glad to share it with you.
Hello, I am Morgan, but right now I am the voice of Curtis, who is one of our virtual attendants. She has a joy to share today. I have a bluebird family nesting outside of my kitchen. So beautiful.
Hey, I'm Mary Francis, and I just wanted to give a little update or follow up with since we're talking about the earth and taking care of it, of a trash cleanup I was a team lead on yesterday in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Yesterday, our different organizations removed 3,683 pounds of trash and waste out of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And we had 131 volunteers come out, and it was a great day. So it was awesome. And if you want to help, let me know. Thank you.
This is a joy. This past week, on one of the many incredibly gorgeous days we've had, David Howell and I were out at Frozen Head, and I know everywhere on the earth, in a sense, some ways just as special, but some is just more special than others, especially in the spring. It was a hymn, it was a paean to what incredibly life produces. And it was wonderful to be able to be there, and I appreciate that David loves it too.
I am now another virtual congregant. W. Wallace has a joy. After 2 months of unemployment, I've had 2 offers and I'm awaiting a third. It does come with a concern as it requires relocating and some time away from my family.
Actually, while we're talking about bird nests, I actually have a joy for, there's a house finch nest on my porch, just like right up above my front door. And if I'm careful going out there, she'll look down at me and not get too scared. But so I'm waiting for chicks any day.
So let's just take a moment to first celebrate the beauty that we get to experience in our lives. And then second, we can channel a lot of that beauty and joy and love towards our concerns. There's nothing more healing for the challenges of our lives and the human condition and this world than to stop and see the beauty. I'm a member of Wendell Berry's organization, the Berry Institute, which is in Kentucky. And on Earth Day every year, the Berry Institute sends out a little note card to its members. And this year they sent a poem, which I don't remember all of. It's a part of a Wendell Berry larger poem. But it describes a hummingbird landing on a flower at a moment when the poet is feeling darkness. And he describes how it is beauty that makes it worth fighting the good fight in the life that we live in that's difficult. Life can be very difficult and very challenging. We face a lot of challenges, but that beauty, a bird nest, a small plant growing, time with family or friends, those little simple moments of beauty and joy are why we continue. Let us cultivate those both here. I'm going to light one more candle. This is for the joys and the concerns not named out loud. For those things that we are holding in our hearts, I'll light a couple. For those things we're holding in our hearts, that are happening, that are too tender to speak, or that we are just simply holding for now close to ourselves. I hope that this community can be a place where we hold that beauty and hold each other in that feeling of beauty and care and appreciation, so that we help each other through the difficult moments. And remember that collectively all that energy can make a really big difference. May it be so. So what we're going to do here is our closing. Surprise, I'm going to surprise you. I am going to invite us to sing Keepers of the Earth, just a couple more verses, okay? But I'm going to take 2 things from the floor, what you'd like to be blessed by. Something that we haven't sung already. You can choose. We've done rivers, we've done mountains, we've done forests, and we've done creatures. What else you got? Birds? Flowers. Birds and flowers. Okay, we're going to do 2 more verses. We're going to do birds first, and then we're going to do flowers. Choir, you're going to have to lead. So please rise in body or spirit, and we'll sing 2 more verses. You can stay standing if you like. You may join hands with someone if you like. You do not need to join hands with someone. You may. You can hold your hands in the air. You can put your hands in your pocket. You can touch your hymnal. Hold your hymnal close. Whatever you feel like doing. I am hoping that that song is now an earworm in your head for the week. Okay? That is the goal. The goal is that you are not going to be able to get that song out of your head. And you're going to be walking around, and you're going to be sitting in your garden, having a lovely time in your garden, and a ginormous spider is going to crawl up your arm. And instead of going, I should kill it, you're going to go bravely, we are blessed by every spider, right? Okay? And when you're in your house and the stink bug comes and lands next to you, you're not going to go, stink bug. You're going to go, I am blessed by every stink bug. Okay, and then when you go out in your garden, and you've got the beginning weeds coming up next to your little plants, your little tomato, whatever it is, you're going to be like, I am blessed by every weed, right? Because the fact of the matter is, we do have some selective qualities around what we like in nature and what we don't like in nature, but every single thing is part of the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. Everything has a role. Every part must be played for the whole to function well. That is true in the web of life, that is outside this building, that is nature, and it is true here in this sanctuary. May we remember that we are blessed by every person, by every creature, no matter whether they're familiar or unfamiliar, whether we like them or don't like them, we are blessed. Let us go into this day and this week and our lives singing that song in our heads about all that we encounter that is life. Go in peace.
Even the ones that fall right in the first.
Well, the